Hello, welcome to our newest edition of the Villainous Plotcast. It's been a while for us, excuse the hiatus. We've been busy behind the scenes running a months-long tournament where we featured a bit of a villainous battle royale where 26 contestants all championed one of the current villainous characters on the roster. It was an epic time. There was a lot to decompress, a lot to reflect on to go forward. Joining me today are MetaCross, who represented Oogie Boogie in this tournament.
Well, here I am.
Jarek Socks, who championed Syndrome.
Evening, knowledge players, and who's super now?
Darth Joker, who enthusiastically championed Jafar.
I put Kronk on Yzma's board as a hero twice.
And LordInfinity, who championed Mim and went on to spoilers to win this tournament. And what were you gonna say, Infinity?
I was gonna say the marvelous and mad.
And so we just wanna, after all that and all that action, we just want to to discuss what it is that we want, that we liked, and we want to see going forward. And doing that, I think it'd be a good idea to just go over each character's performance in this tournament. We had new contestants this time. This was a sequel to a tournament that had been done in the past. And we had Oogie Boogie as one of our new characters, as well as all the introduction to evil characters. And we'll tell you all about how they did. Okay. So who do you guys want to start with?
Well, might as well start with one of the characters that left the tournament first, that was eliminated first.
Alright.
So do you have the bracket, Waco?
Yeah, I have it open here. So in our tournament, which took so long, it was a double elimination tournament, and in the first round of our tournament, we had two villains exit, and the first one was classic Ursula, and she lost her first match against Pete before going on to be eliminated by Darth Joker's Jafar. She is one of the only two characters, along with New Ursula, never to win a set in this kind of format. So what do you guys think about that?
Ursula's just a bad villain.
Oh my. So hard.
Yeah, Ursula's a tricky one to play, to be honest. She can fade a lot. She has the ability to fade twice in a single turn, but also normally she will always be fading one every two turns. But still, she's just so slow in her objective. So no wonder that Pete got around to defeating her.
Yeah, going up against Ursula, her whole fake deck is reactionary pretty much, and like using, I think I know I'm not gonna give Loki too much shit, but whatever. I'm not gonna say anything about that. Our players, but playing against Ursula sucks. Okay, the OG one, but I think Darth definitely had like good luck, I would say. I don't know. I wasn't watching that match, so because I was practicing
That match,
mine.
I was just trying to cover the top spates and stuff and try taking the pressure off of me a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this in this tournament we had classic Ursula piloted by Lady Loki, and like I said, Jafar piloted by Darth Joker, and And I think that Lady Loki's classic Ursula, her take on it was, it's kind of hard like to get intuitive about this Ursula if you don't play her enough, I think. And she was like, I think that she probably needed to be discarding a lot more than she did. But like, it's a hard character to know intuitively. Like, you really need to practice. Yeah.
Yeah, Ursula just has a lot of setup components you need to go for, and has a lot of unique strategies.
Yeah.
It's all about playing the cards right, and if you can lock up the layer with the items, you just win. So,
Yeah. Do you guys think we'll ever see Classic Ursula win in this format?
I
I can see her winning at least one game in another tournament.
maybe in our tournament,
Yeah.
the way I would
Maybe
put
against a more difficult character. That's the only way I see it possible.
Maybe against King Candy.
Maybe he's a stubborn, so yeah, could possibly.
So apart from her, we had a bigger and badder villain. Everyone's favorite huggable bear. Lotso, who I predicted would be in the final four, lost 2-0 to Radigan in the first round, and then he got knocked out by New Prince John. So he was out pretty early, despite being possibly a very strong character. What do you guys think about that?
I think he faced some of the stronger villains in the game, and I feel like when Lotso faces villains which are, how do you put it? So New Prince John can do, he can get the snake out and pretty much fate spam if they really care to.
Yeah.
Then you have, it was the Radigan. Radigan's pretty much like one of the big proponents of Lotso is he's extremely fate resistant, and he can fate aggressively while doing a lot of things pretty easily. And Radigan's pretty, how do you put it, fast and unsusceptible to fating.
Yeah. You got pretty unlucky with it.
I feel like that was just luck of the draft, if you will, of who he faced.
because even though Lotso's in the top 5, I was expecting him to get knocked out actually against Radigan, because I know our Radigan player wonderful, because he's one of my good players. He's a good Radigan player as well. He's very good.
Yeah, Lotso, who was piloted in this tournament by Jim Dandy at first, and then we had a substitute come in for him halfway through, making him the only villain in this tournament history to have 2 pilots. But he just faced some tough villains with tough pilots. In the future, we could consider having some kind of tournament format where the tougher villains get introduced a little later, or maybe they're seeded so they don't have to face each other as much. But it is kind of tricky to figure out how you would seed them when the game is so asymmetrical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then apart from Lotso, we move into our round 2, those villains who made it as far as round 2. And we had, sadly, new Ursula following her big sister and getting eliminated early on. Now, new Ursula was piloted by my brother, Sebastian Milo, who first faced Classic Prince John, lost that 2-0, and then was eliminated by Scar 2-1. What are your thoughts on new Ursula, guys?
Better than old Ursula. Because she doesn't have the lock, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely better, but she's... I feel like she's more susceptible to fading. Like the original Ursula was, as Jarek said, her fade is more reactionary. But this new Ursula, you can start blocking her actions, and also the abilities on the heroes are much better, much more impactful, I feel. For example, the one that moves either your allies or your heroes, or for example, Sebastian, that doesn't let you move items to his location. And of course, we got Triton, which is much worse, I believe, than Ariel in this version. So you can really stop her if you fade her a lot. Like, you don't need much strategy as long as you fade her constantly. But still, she can be quite quicker, quite a bit quicker than the original Ursula, if she gets the right cards in the right order. But I feel like she's still much more consistent.
That's correct, yeah. Like, the new Ursula is one of the better I2E characters, in my opinion, I would say. And the Fate deck, you can stop her depending on the Fates that come out, and they're not all that reactionary. Like, for example, like King Train, you can move the crown and the crown, the trident, to all the way to far right, and then it's going to take a while for her to keep it going. But she can still make progress, though, with how much she's faded, because she has 4 Unfortunate Souls where she can defeat a hero and move an item as well in the process.
It's true. With that one, I have a feeling a bit of it is, I think we're still trying to find the optimal strategy for new Ursula.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But it is interesting. She is more susceptible to fading now, unlike the last one. Alright. And then after new Ursula, we had the Lord of the Underworld, Hades, played by Jab, who got eliminated by the new Prince John after he lost to Classic Maleficent earlier on. So how do you rate Hades' performance in this tournament?
Hades did about as well as I expected, I feel. He's on the slower side.
Yeah.
For the villains. And well, facing against the new Prince John, you said?
The new Prince John, yeah.
Yeah, the new Prince John, just like the old one, has no trouble fading you every time if he wishes. But at least Hades got the opportunity to play his conditions, his 6 power condition.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Ruthless.
Ruthless, But still, it wasn't enough, obviously.
Yeah, I generally find Hades is just very slow, especially with more consistent villains like Prince John, new or old.
Hades is not very good competitively, usually, because he's always like one of the slowest characters trying to go for his Titans and moving. I know I'm a good Hades player, but I don't think I'm not going to probably play him that much in a competitive league, but like, maybe in other games.
Somebody's got to fill his shoes in the Battle Royale 3.
I'll see ya. If there's one.
Yeah, he did get a win against new Prince John in this. He was played by a good Hades player, but it's just tough. It's always an uphill battle for Hades.
Literally.
Many fates stop him. Yep.
From the Underworld to Mount Olympus.
And then also eliminated that time, it was Peter. So Pete was piloted in this tournament by Lemon Slayer. He was beaten first by Yzma, and then he actually beat Classic Ursula 2-0, lost to Yzma, and then he got knocked out by Syndrome. So Jarek, you were responsible for that.
Yeah.
How would you
really like the matchup with Pete and Syndrome is tough because Pete needs to keep his board stay clear, and like I was fading him a lot, and I felt bad as well because I was covering up almost all of his actions. No kidding. I felt bad.
So you think it's a bit like like Syndrome definitely has the advantage in that one.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it can work out in favor if he's not get hit by that Slowly Wicked or Monologuing. If he has those modifications in hand or on his board,
Yeah. It's interesting.
Something I'm kind of realizing is a lot of the villains from the newer sets tend to have the playstyle where they feel the effects of fate against them less. And I don't know how else to describe it, but it seems like a general trend that, like, most of the older villains, I feel like when you fate them, it's like, oh shoot, I've lost half my actions.
right.
With some of these newer villains like Syndrome, it's like, oh yeah, I lost half my actions, but I have plenty of conditions to get around it. I have stuff to vanquish him almost immediately. Or it's like with Lotso, it's like, oh, I'll just use this one condition, move everything back to the left. Like, you have the solution or a way to deal with it almost immediately. Whereas the older villains are like, shoot, I have to gradually work my way. Even the new ones seem to have that somewhat of a tendency of more. I think New Ursula is the only one who doesn't really exemplify it. But they have the tendency to have struggles at controlling.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think like a lot of the like Ravensburger seems to think that. I'm never really sure what their design philosophy is, but they seem to think that if you, I don't know, like if you can just be bigger and badder, you can remove fates pretty easily. Like maybe they like the more simplicity. They think that it's more fun.
Yeah. I can see that.
Although Syndrome definitely feels the effects of that was totally wicked.
Yep.
Of course.
That is
Mostly
fair.
because of the item pad, of course. Not much for the allies.
And it usually depends on the situation.
Yeah. But it definitely for bigger and badder that was the case, yeah. And then some movements.
Yeah, the bigger and better characters can be slowed down. It all depends on, like, are you not discarding? Are you covering their top discard and their top play because it's always their best locations? And, like, you cover up, like, Losso's playground, which is now a worthless location now. And if you don't discard, Losso's going to be in tough shape as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But good luck getting for your game without discarding.
Yeah.
Okay.
No joke. Yeah, I have definitely never discarded before against Lotso. No kidding.
Oh my god. That's what we have to resort to.
Yeah.
But Pete, he got eliminated by Syndrome, but he did make history getting his first win against Classic Ursula, so good for him.
Yep.
And then after
That
him...
was Pete's first win?
Yeah, in this kind of tournament, which is only 2 years in the making. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Every character has won a set, except for Ursula and New Ursula. So next year it'll be their year, I'm sure.
I think next year will be King Candy and Shere Khan's year. And then Ursula just doesn't get a year.
Oh my.
Something tells me those two will be extremely chaotic.
Those two, eh? Why do you think so?
Oh, like with King Candy, there's just so many different things that affect how random he plays. Like, not just his deck anymore. You literally have his movement choice. Like, you're playing him like you're playing Monopoly rather than you're playing Villainous.
That was fun.
It's very fun, yes, but what I'm saying is, in terms of being able to predict King Candy's success rate against villains, I think he'll be so much harder to predict than any other villain. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Shere Khan also feels like he has the elements of speed, but he has tons of things that stall those elements of speed. He feels like he has Hades' Fate deck, but he has the speed of Facilier. and the defense capabilities of Hook.
Interesting.
And maybe
He
not
seems
Hook,
like
but
he seems like he'll be strong competitively. Who knows? But
I will say so for sure.
definitely one that needs to get faded. Yeah, I can't wait to see them participate.
Yeah, me too.
All right. And then after P, we had another perfectly wretched character get eliminated, Cruella. Actually, all the perfectly wretched characters got eliminated in round 2. The Cruella got eliminated. She first had to face Madame Mim, beaten 2-0, and then lost to Lady Tremaine 2-0. So Cruella didn't get a win this tournament, but yeah, what do you guys think about her?
Crow's always on the slow side because if you need the puppies out, you need your lackeys, a Jasper and horse. You can move them around with the roadster, and you need to discard a lot of cards, get some activates on the board. And if you're fading Cruella, DeVille always cover the activates, the top activates, and get her in fate lock position as well.
I feel with Cruella, she's just she has the problem of she's slow. She can have good board control, but she is average in almost everything, but she's just slow in her progression. And that slowness is easy to take advantage of for anyone who has more fate capability or board control.
Yeah, I feel like it's her board control, which is tough for her. She's competitive, I feel, but she's definitely it's an uphill battle for because of her speed.
As I would say, I'd put her usually in B or C tier.
Yeah, she's fun. Okay, Cruella, so that was you, and Baby Daisy Lover piloted her. And then after that, Gaston, a Despicable Plots character, got eliminated. He also fell victim to Madame Mim. And then he got eliminated by Classic Captain Hook, so that was a tough time for Gaston.
Yeah. Gaston can not really be slow, but it depends on you block in his discard and his play at Beast Castle in the woods because those are the best 2 locations indeed. Just he needs to discard a lot for their obstacle removable cards, get some power, use Beautiful to Me a good amount of times. He definitely got screwed up by the draws usually, I would say.
Yeah. What's interesting about Gaston, especially when I was playing him as Mim, the player who played Gaston this time was great. They were extremely good at making sure I felt like as Mim I had to fate him so often just to prevent his quick win.
Did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
he did very good.
I feel like the real trick with him is the fact he's marginally lacking in his ability to control his own board. And because of that margin, if someone could just outpace him in fate and control, all suddenly I feel like that's what puts him into the kind of the stalemate is of even if you're playing it optimal, if you're discarding, you just barely, because your fate deck has that slight high enough strength to remove obstacles. Like, let's see, one turn I removed 3 obstacles, replaced 3 obstacles.
He did well considering the toughness of his opponents, and almost got one over Mim and Captain Hook, but his fate deck just hits back so hard, man.
Yeah,
it's so brutal.
It's a tug of war, basically.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also with Gaston, her fate deck is made in such a way that if you fate him every turn, he will have absolutely no chance at winning.
No. Yeah, he has to get lucky. Try to pull off a surprise or something. But man, I admire those players who play Gaston because they have to just be like okay, we're gonna have to live with getting all of our tokens replaced over
That's
and
what
over.
you call manning up and toughing up, right?
It's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I think the Gaston player last year once said that he once replaced like 32 obstacles in a game or something like that. That's like his record.
That's a lot. Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, they did good. Hub did a very good job with Gaston. It's very tough. That's why it might be a good idea to seed them out, but we can see about that. And then Mother Gothel got eliminated round 2 by Jafar. Oh, sorry, no, other way around. All right. Actually, so Mother Gothel, one of the perfectly wretched characters, did make it through. So she was piloted by Pumpkin King, who first faced Evil Queen, lost 2-1 to Evil Queen, who later became a semifinalist, and then faced Darth Joker's Jafar. And then what happened, Darth Joker, in that match?
I went into the game knowing I was losing that one. I knew Pumpkin King was a good Gothel, and I wasn't going to be able to bait as much as I needed to. So
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
actually,
I'm
sorry.
curious. What do you guys think of the inverted statistics for that matchup? Jafar, at least historically, I have Jafar winning 78% of the time against Mother Gothel. And I'll even check how many matches that's out of. What do you think of that?
I think Jafar would usually be favored to win that match. Yeah, but
I thought it would be Jafar as well.
yeah,
I will also say I'm not a Jafar player, so yeah.
But
Okay.
Mother Gothel was really well. It was really good. Had a really good pilot, and she can beat Jafar if she gets lucky. I think Jafar just might have the advantage because he has like deception, and his conditions are firing. And so in this tournament,
Go ahead, Lord.
I was gonna say there's 18 games we have between the two on record.
Okay.
I was gonna say, also, I'm pretty sure almost every game I played, I got the magic lamp in my starting hand, and their pendant was towards the bottom of the deck, and I couldn't cry fast enough.
Yeah.
typical Jafar experience. And in this tournament, Jafar was piloted by Darth Joker, lost 2-0 to Yzma, then he knocked out Ursula before getting knocked out by Mother Gothel.
Yep.
But overall, yeah, good matchup, that one. The other character, another character to be eliminated in round 2 was the Hornady King, who in this tournament was piloted by Mole, who first lost 2-1 to Classic Maleficent before losing 2-0 to Radigan. Although I think Mole actually played him pretty well in this tournament.
I would say so.
Yeah. Tough matchups.
Yeah, Maleficent is... See, funny enough, Horn King is, I feel, is most similar to Maleficent in general. But I know for a fact Maleficent just has an easier time going for her objective than the Horn King. Just Horn King's... I feel like Horn King's fates are more brutal, and if he's unlucky, he won't have the stuff to deal with his fates early enough.
I've always had that struggle.
Yeah.
Like when you cover up his actions, he can really, really struggle.
You guys think he can be competitive, Hornady King?
I
think so.
Cards at the right moment, yeah.
I feel
Pumpkin can be very good if he gets the right cards at the right moment, and especially there's a point at a point in the game where Hornkin just absolutely not care about heroes on his board because he just has all all of his what are they called? The
Cauldron
allies?
Born.
Yeah, the Cauldron Born. They just get rid of every single hero very easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that stage you get to as Horn King though, where you're looking for that last Cauldron Born and you have to discard and then your hand keeps getting knocked out of you and oh my god.
I feel like Horn King would be. I feel like there's a few strategies we're still finding for Horn King, but I do feel his biggest. He struggles just enough. It's hard for him to be, like if we were like pure. You pick the villain you're playing. I do think he has his uses, but I don't think he would be as strong as most people would be hoping for in that picking and choose world.
Yeah, interesting.
Although I don't mind finding him in a draft. He's in the upper half of villains is where I place him in my mind. Just not in the top quarter. I put him like middle.
Middle, eh?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay, interesting. Alright, Harmony King, we spent too much time on you, and finally the last character to be eliminated in round 2 was the Queen of Hearts, who first played against Scar, lost 2-0, and then was beaten by classic Prince John 2-1, which was a repeat of the semi-final from last year. What do you guys think about Queen of Hearts?
To be fair, I fully expected Queen of Hearts to originally beat Scar.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm not quite sure. I feel like Queen of Hearts has a lot of randomity to her, and Scar is pretty straightforward. So to me, if I was just looking at them mechanically, I would favor Scar. If I'm looking off history, I'd favor Queen of Hearts.
Yeah, Scar? Yeah, go on.
And I do feel like, in the end, with the matches Queen of Hearts, like especially in the Scar one, there was a really awesome pilot for Scar. I feel like that really was what sealed the deal on that one, was just having that pilot there. Rather than necessarily Queen of Hearts being the weaker character in that matchup, is the best way to put it, I guess.
Shows the difference a pilot makes too. Because last year we had Zachary piloting Queen of Hearts, and he made it all the way to the final. And it shows that she's a tricky character to use. Though generally, she has some randomness.
I would definitely agree.
Yeah.
And now that I'm looking at it, it looks like Queen of Hearts faced 2 really consistent villains. Prince John being one of them.
I feel like Queen of Hearts can be random, but you can also make it to where you absolutely win as soon as you get to take a shot, because there's no limit to how much strength a wicket can have. And so if you know the cards and everything that you could pull, then you could just automatically make it, assuming your opponent doesn't win before you.
Mm-hmm. I would say Queen of Hearts' Fate deck is very, very tame, but it all comes down to a point where she can be soft lock and cannot win the game. Where you have Alice out and you have Mum Rest effect, which can move all the wickets at one location. Then there's no way she wins.
Yeah, they can get to that point. Yeah, that's but Queen of Hearts can mostly avoid that situation, unless a lot of mistakes are being made or something went really wrong. But yeah, that was Queen of Hearts, piloted by Patrick Starr. Moving on to our round 3 villains who departed at this stage, beginning with Scar. Scar had a lion battle against New Prince John. As we stated, he beat Queen of Hearts to begin with, lost to Oogie Boogie 2-0 in their first competitive match, and then lost to New Prince John 2-0. What do you guys think about Scar's performance here, making it to round 3?
Very high considering historical record.
Yeah.
Good for Scar. I really like him. I think he's one of the better Vanquish Everything You See villains.
I'll agree on that. Yeah.
Well, the
Scar-
better in the fun way, not better in the competitive way, I suppose.
Yeah. Like Scar is a good villain, but he's definitely one of those like can be slow villains, but it depends on like if the luck of Mufasa trying to get him out, setting up hyenas. He can be fate locked, but it usually just depends, And
Yeah.
and and also, I think we just had a very, very good Scar player. I'm very good Scar player today. Just him getting up to round 3, that was impressive.
Oh yeah, and he also beat New Ursula. So
Yeah.
before this, I don't think Scar had won a game last year, but he beat 2 people you wouldn't expect him to beat. Lost to Oogie Boogie, and then New Prince John is probably too much for him.
Yeah.
Prince John New is both consistent and fast.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it can just fade too much.
Mm-hmm.
But that was Scar's journey. And then another villain who got knocked out in round 3 was Lady Tremaine, who made it into the final 4 last year. But this year, she first started off by losing 2-0 to Dr. Vasilier. Then she knocked out Cruella, and then she got knocked out by Syndrome. So, Jarek, how was your match? That one.
I just definitely think I just had a very easy competitor, I would say, probably. And I was expecting to lose because Lady Tremaine is very, very good. She can set up her dead fates and make very good progress of just discarding a lot of cards, trying to get the key items she needs, keep the cat out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just had a very easy competitor, I think.
Okay. And generally, how do you think that Syndrome does in that? I mean, you got the first wins for Syndrome in this tournament, which was great.
Correct.
And you knocked out a toughie. But yeah, generally, you don't think Syndrome usually is favored in that matchup?
I don't think so. Generally not, because Syndrome needs to discard a lot and the modifications and one more thing pops out almost any time. And Lady Tremaine can set up dead fates, with VPJ.
So, fun point. Currently you're saying the trend for the historical data here because your 2 games you played against Tremaine are added to now the 5 games we have for Syndrome v Tremaine. So because of your 2 wins, the win rate of Syndrome versus Lady Tremaine is 60%. So there's 3 of the 5 games have been won against Tremaine, and 2 of which you participated in.
Yeah.
So that one's still up in the air, at least historically. So
Really? Wow. All right.
Interesting. Do you guys think that Syndrome can be a competitive character?
yes.
It depends on the situation, as always, and how brutal the fate deck is. It hurts.
Personally, I would say Syndrome's pretty weak, but I could be wrong with that.
My thoughts are, in a pick competitive, he can be as long as you set your strategy right. And in draft mode, I think he's one of the easily more pickable and acceptable. Like if we did the banned draft method again, he's easily a good one of the 4 usually. It's usually one of the more stronger villains you would say try to not pick, or one of the weaker villains you try to ban out of the bunch. But
Yeah.
Syndrome's usually
Yeah.
more middle, which works out, I think.
Mhm.
I personally
And,
think we'll see a lot of Syndrome in this new method they're proposing.
I mean, like, I'm a very good Syndrome player. Like, I know I got knocked out by Old Queen because I made a mistake, and I was expecting to get eliminated by New Mal, of course. So yeah. So I did pretty well with Syndrome. So
Yeah, you did. You got his
Yeah.
first wins in this tournament and
yeah,
had some great games actually. And you kind of showed that he
Yeah.
can be competitive.
if he can, but if he get Fate Barrage like around the end game, it can be really tough. So.
Yeah. I wonder how they balance Mim and Syndrome. And just,
Not really. I don't think that good.
so that's as far
That's
as
my
Lady
thoughts.
Train went.
That's my thoughts on also Syndrome as well for me.
And with Lady Tremaine coming out, that ended all the Despicable Plots characters. And then after that, it was Mother Gothel who got eliminated by Classic Captain Hook. I think that's possibly the worst matchup Mother Gothel could have drawn it. It's kind of unlucky.
And to be fair, by round 3, I wouldn't say drawn as much anymore, because by this point, we've sorted a good chunk of villains out, so...
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Most
But-
correct.
She might have a chance against some other ones, but Captain Hook is such a rough one for her.
Yeah.
But
Would you say it's just because of speed, or because of just fate resilience?
kind of like what I heard from other people. They say it's an impossible matchup for Mother Gothel because I don't know. Yeah, probably a combination of all those things, especially because Cunning is always gonna pop off. Obsession. He's probably too fast. Sure. But,
It kind of only pop off against the Savington brothers, but that's it. So
yeah. They're there. But Mother Gothel, played by a very good player this time, and at least he made her proud in this tournament.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
That was something for most players I think can learn from his Gothel play.
Yeah, great point.
Uh-huh.
All right. Fine. Moving on then from Mother Gothel, the other villain to be eliminated in round 3 was Classic Prince John. By Radigan, a Classic Prince John who had eliminated Queen of Hearts, beat New Ursula, but then was beaten by New Captain Hook and then eliminated by Radigan. Classic Prince John, one of the semi-finalists from last year. He's a pretty strong character always.
And I feel like in this matchup, he got New Hook, which is one of the strongest villains I feel in the game at this point. That pushed him down pretty quickly, I feel. And then facing Radigan, in general, I view Radigan in pretty high self-regard as one of the more fate resilient and more speedy villains. And Prince John, though consistent and fast, he's not nearly as speedy as Radigan potentially.
Yeah. I wonder how close that matchup is.
I can tell you actually. We have over 100 games for that one.
Okay.
So 60% of those games are Radigan winning.
Oh, okay. I would have expected it to be even higher. But
not as many as I expected.
Yeah.
Radigan is usually more tame in his win rates.
Yeah. And I mean, Prince John can knock off Greeds in that matchup.
Oh, indeed.
Yep.
I actually think our Radigan player, I'm trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure he avoided that and just played a bunch of gears.
That was wonderful. Yeah, he's one of the best Radigan players out there.
Yeah, that was smart.
Yeah.
But Classic Prince John was eliminated, and a lot of the semifinalists from last year were eliminated at that point. Yeah, like 3 of the 4 from last year were eliminated by that point. And a lot of the worst takes at all characters were surprisingly eliminated by this point, too.
Yeah.
I'm personally not as surprised
No?
because the
Okay.
general tendency with any game is as you release an expansion in the future, especially if you're trying to make the expansion more fun, even if you
Yeah.
balance it to death, odds are there's going to be some villains in there that are going to be marginally stronger than the original.
Cough, cough,
The fact-
not a mem.
Yeah, there's the one new hook, for example. Like, and some are more balanced in the future too, but it's like, especially in a game where you don't do updates or anything, so since it's a board game and all, it's
Yeah.
almost inevitable that something like that would start happening.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's not extreme with most cases, but
Yeah. Well, and yeah, probably, maybe not in most cases until Bigger and Badder came along.
and I also feel it's worth mentioning, once you get 3 players in a game beyond the 1v1s, I feel like especially all the win rates end up balancing out. So
Yeah, that's true. At that point, once you have multiple players, everything feels, I guess, more balanced.
Because you don't have the bait pressure that you would have in a 1v1. You actually have options with baits, so and you got to use them wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then moving into round 4 of this tournament, we had another Lion exit, and this time it was new Prince John, the first of the Introduction to Evil characters, making it this far and just narrowly losing to Dr. Facilier. This new Prince John had eliminated Scar, had eliminated Hades, had eliminated Lotso, and had just lost his first game against New Mal narrowly. So this new Prince John was piloted by X-Eyes, and he did a really good job. I was kind of surprised, actually, he didn't beat Dr. Facilier here.
I was surprised as well.
So to be fair, the reason I'm not surprised is because Dr. Facilier, he has a pretty good consistency in being pretty speedy in his win.
Yeah.
And Prince John, so if, for example, Dr. Facilier just focuses on taking care of fates and speeding, odds are he's just going to outspeed Prince John New.
Facilier is one of the fastest characters of all time in Villainous, pretty much.
Yeah.
He always needs like 2 cards and play cards with hell and win. That's it.
Yeah.
To be fair, I was doing a comparison recently. All the villains that have the potential for extremely fast wins, because Captain Hook New can also win in 3 turns like Facilier, but his is much less likely on his own. I only count on their own. I don't count if your opponent helps you. That's cheating. But Hook on his own can win in 3 turns, or it was 4. Anyway, 3 or 4 turns he can win. But it's a lot harder for him to achieve that than it is Facilier, who more or less just has to focus on gaining power and cycling cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Facilier, just the advantage he had in this matchup was, kind of thought X-Eyes would win this, but I think Dr. Facilier just put so much fear in you whenever you're going up against him.
He really does, yeah.
Yeah. But that was like new Prince John, and first time he's in this tournament, first time seeing his Introduction to Evil. Introduction to Evil did really well in this game, in this tourney.
Indeed, I feel a ton of ones that state new besides Ursula dying early.
Yeah.
Correct.
What do you guys think generally about Introduction to Evil's competitive strength?
High.
Yeah.
Very high.
Yeah, pretty high. The new Captain Hook is... The original Captain Hook was already good, and the new one is even better. Maleficent, I don't know, I feel like they're both almost the same. Maybe the new one is a bit better.
I would argue the other way around, because the old Maleficent, you didn't need the allies, so you could just play curses whenever. Whereas the new one, you need to have allies on your board to be able to play curses.
I agree on that. Like, I think I really like the old Mal better, and I think I just like old Captain Hook better because new Captain Hook, he can just fate you going back and forth between a tree because it's unlocked, and he can just move a whole bunch of heroes all the way to Jolly Roger and just not worry about them.
Yeah. Which is what we saw happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always.
So, my thought is comparing the new versus old Maleficent is they definitely did a lot of nerfs and one pretty big buff to the new Mal. And overall, based off what I've been seeing, I feel like the new Mal is more competitive just because she's harder to fate react to. And fate, like, she can actually, besides the Merryweather, she can more or less achieve her, like the old Mal, you could have heroes on the board, but that's a problem because all of a sudden, even if you cover your board, you have to wait a turn for your opponent to potentially fate you. And unless you were prepared and had their fate blocked, you basically had a really high chance of them either drawing the right card or a marginal chance they wouldn't draw the right fate card to get rid of a curse. Whereas New Maleficent, there's no opportunity for that. There's literally just, hey, as soon as I kill Merryweather, can I move everything immediately or play enough that basically I just win before you can start taking advantage of the weaknesses of my curses. And I feel like that and just comparative historic things leads me to believe Maleficent New is marginally more competitive. And I always say that with great trust, marginal. Marginal.
Well, she did phenomenal in this tourney, and I mean, she had a really great pilot. And maybe you're right. Maybe she is more competitive in the last one. I mean, both the Maleficents, to be fair, both of them got pretty far in this one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in any case, New Prince John was eliminated by Dr. Vasilier. And then we had New Mal versus Syndrome, which actually I think was one of the most fun sets I saw in the whole tournament. It was kind of interesting. Because Syndrome got off to such a fire start in the first game.
Yeah, I got lucky. A lucky draw on my modifications. That's what happened.
Yeah, and I'm like, is Syndrome gonna pull this off? Oh my god, but
not quite.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's as far as Syndrome got in this tournament. But I mean, round 4 for Syndrome, I think is very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Feel it
Yeah.
fits personally.
Yeah, so that's great.
And I expect to lose both games because going against New Mal's a very good competitor is tough. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it can be scary going up against these intro to evil characters.
Yeah.
And then, how did you like representing Syndrome in this tournament?
I loved it a lot. It was fun.
Great. And then after that, we had actually the last 2 remaining worst takes at all characters face each other, which is kind of interesting. All I wanted in this tournament was for the variants to face the classics, but it never happened. And so we had Classic Maleficent versus Classic Captain Hook, which is, what would you guys say, like a 50-50 matchup?
Yeah.
I'd say everyone else go before me since I actually have the historical record.
I agree on it.
I would say about that, anywhere from a 50-50 to a 60-40.
Hmm.
So, are we ready for the real?
Yeah.
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 Historically, and this one, by the way, let's be clear. There's like 150 games of these recorded. 53% of those games belong to Captain Hook. 47 belong to Maleficent.
Ooh.
So it's honestly so close to 50. You might as well.
Yeah. That's interesting. I feel like a lot of the characters in the first box are pretty balanced against each other.
I would
Except
agree.
one.
Except
Ursula.
what?
Except for Ursula.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Back to Ursula bashing.
Yeah. Always.
So that was the end of classic Captain Hook's adventure in this. He was piloted by Mr. Anvil. He knocked out Gothel, which was the last of the Perfectly Wretched. He knocked out Gaston. He lost first game to Dr. Vasilier, which was a tough matchup. But are you guys surprised classic Captain Hook didn't make it to the final like new Captain Hook did?
I am not. Oh, I can continue. I am not, just because with that locked location and the denial of one of his most powerful forms of fate control early on. It's he has to find the map now. He has to find a MacGuffin. Whereas, as a lot of villains, especially the newer villains, don't have a MacGuffin. And then against Facilier is just faster, especially when that's actually kind of an interesting point. Facilier is just faster because he doesn't have to then move something. He just has to make sure he has both items. And
Yeah.
plays a card.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's definitely a difference.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd say it's also because he only has access to one. Wait, does it? Is he one of the ones? Yeah, he only has access to one fate action, and until he gets the map. And
Yeah.
the denial of the second fate is an extreme deal in the early game.
Yeah. Which Maleficent appreciates. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you guys think that the new Captain Hook is stronger than the classic Captain Hook?
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah. The new one doesn't even need to play the map.
No.
Okay, and the last match in that round was Yzma versus Radigan, where my Yzma knocked out Radigan 2-1. A Radigan which had knocked out Horn King, classic Prince John, but that was a close match, and I had to get kind of lucky. But yeah, that was the end of Wonderful's Radigan there. Did a good job.
Yeah.
That one was an exciting one to watch. The historical win rate would favor Radigan normally. He had a 57% win rate. And honestly, that's close enough that factors can just fluctuate the game. So it seemed like you played Yzma really good, and
Yeah, and that Fate Lock helps.
Yeah.
And I think one of your more clever strategies of Yzma that really puts Radigan in a bind is making sure you get rid of some of your fate piles.
Yeah.
So that he is forced to fate you in areas that you'd prefer to fate going in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the general keys of Yzma, trying to get rid of your opponent's options. So then they can, you can have access to the areas on your board that are the most favorable for you.
Yeah.
Or you can reset, yeah. But you have to get lucky. You have to try and find the smash of a hammers quick, and then you have to get lucky not to hit Cusco, which is always so annoying.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and now we're moving into the big time, where round 5, where Dr. Facilier was eliminated by New Mao. Dr. Vasily, piloted by Johnny Kazar, who, he's kind of a more newish player, but even in newish hands, I think Dr. Vasily is still super strong. But he finally came up across New Mal, where he couldn't go any further. What did you guys think about that matchup?
It was intriguing.
I think in that one, in particular, so fun fact, there was no previous games between Facilier and Maleficent.
Interesting.
Especially in Wicked League, she or Facilier were typically the ones banned, so it was almost an impossibility to get that matchup. In fact, she only had 6 games in Wicked League.
Oh yeah, so few.
So in this case,
she had more matches in this tournament.
Oh yes, she did. In fact, Maleficent New I view as about equivalent, if not slightly stronger than Maleficent. And Facilier seemed to be having a bad day in that game.
Yeah. Some really rough fates.
And to be fair, especially with all these new I2E villains and what their changes in their fate decks were, I feel like especially the newer players were confused by some of the things in their fate decks. Like, if I remember correctly, I don't think Dr. Facilier took advantage of Merryweather that much. But I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. And Numal did a pretty good job always like having access to her fate and things.
Indeed.
Are you guys surprised that Dr. Facilier has not made it to the Final Four in these 2 seasons?
Honestly, yeah.
I am not, just because I know for a fact there's some villains that are really good at countering him historically.
Yeah, some villains can counter him sometimes. But I was surprised if Silly didn't get to the top, so...
Yeah, I kind of think that Dr. Facilier used to be the most feared character in the game, and in the past he would make it to the Final Four, but now you have so many characters which are they're all scary in their own right, and they could all beat him, and they have such fate power. So I think like his fear level has gone down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Especially after Madame stole his spotlight. Along with new Captain Hook.
Yeah. And then the other one, so in round 5, the only 2 characters to be eliminated were New Maleficent and Classic Maleficent.
That is not actually.
That's a coincidence.
And Classic Maleficent lost to Maisma. And she was piloted by HT. What's his name? HT Sir OHN.
HT
Saron.
Yeah.
And he did a great job. I mean, it was a very narrow win. And I'm not sure who was really favored in that matchup. I feel like it could go either way. And
that's about accurate.
Yeah. And it was just end of the line for the Maleficents there.
Yeah. We had Boston versus Maleficent.
That's my dream.
Coincidence.
I want to see that happen one day.
See what in particular happened?
I want to see the variants face off against the originals in this format one day.
In this format, okay. I was gonna say our playtesting channel needs to schedule a few of those.
I'd love to see that. Maybe in the future they'll re-release Jafar and Queen of Hearts as well.
That might happen. We'll see.
Maybe.
I hope not. But I don't like the newer characters other than Ursula.
Fun fact, I was looking at the instructions they showed in some of the images. They use the original setup rules in those instructions.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we're just doing a variant of those rules.
Yep, we did a mixture.
Okay.
And then in losers round 6, when we had just like a few characters left, that was when New Mal faced Oogie Boogie.
Uh huh.
Wicked Cross. What did you think of Oogie Boogie in general, and your his participation in this tournament here?
Yeah.
I really like playing with Oogie Boogie. At the beginning, I thought he was gonna be like super boring because he pretty much only has to play 4 cards and defeat a hero. But after playing in this tournament, I thought he was much more fun. But also, I noticed that he's much more susceptible to fading at the beginning of the game. Because there's a point in the middle where you have your children, your allies.
Yeah.
And if you play the battle, then you can just move them around along with you. I did that in one of my matches. I don't remember which one. Where I just had all my children in one location with the battle. And I just moved them along with me. And if I needed to vanquish a hero, I used the card that lets you perform a vanquish action.
Yeah. He can do some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Oogie is a very fun character.
Yeah, and in my match against the new Maleficent, they of course tried to fade me a lot at the beginning of the game. But I really noticed that while he was fading me, and of course I didn't make much progress because of that, he also didn't make much progress himself because I could also fade him every other turn. So I'm not sure if fading me so much really gave him an advantage, but whatever. In the middle of the game, it was much more interesting playing with Oogie Boogie against Mal.
Do you think it really came down to luck of those dice rolls?
Oh yeah, in the Maleficent games, I believe I really had bad luck with my die rolls. There was one game where I always got what I wanted with my dice, but in the new Maleficent game, I just didn't have any luck. I believe I discarded like I failed like 3 Making Christmas Time in a row.
Yeah. Oh my god. And how do you like Sally?
Sally, I feel like at the beginning of the game, it's very important to, as the other player, to play Sally, and as Oogie Boogie, as to try to discard her, because Oogie Boogie has that effect that lets you reveal 3 cards, and you get cards if they're heroes, and then you discard them. So that way, I discarded Sally a couple of times. But yeah, the worst thing about Sally is that she makes it so you cannot vanquish when you need to.
Oh,
because a lot of the time it's like, next turn I can move over to a vanquish location, but I don't have the allies or I don't have the power, so I have to waste 1 turn moving the other way around to get what I need, then 2 turns to get to the vanquished action. So I think that's what makes Sally so annoying, the fact that you cannot vanquish as much with her, because if it wasn't for that, she wouldn't be as much of a pest.
Sally is a rough one. She can really mess up Oogie's movement and cover up like maybe the game 3 and the move as well, like the top fate.
Interesting. Yeah, each of you in that matchup had a card like Merryweather or Sally. That was really bad for both of you.
Definitely.
But that was the first participation of Oogie Boogie competitively. It was interesting. He faced a lot of Maleficent. in those matchups.
Twice.
Right.
Okay, so excited to see how he does going forward. And then the other elimination in that round was me, when new Captain Hook top decked Peter Pan, and there was really nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
I feel like that happened a lot in this tournament, where new Captain Hook was just pulling out Peter Pan from the top of the deck.
It is possible. It's a 1 out of 8 chance. So what I found was, in general, that happened about once every 8 of his games. And then it's that, or it was just under the top one he just took care of. So within 2 is even more likely. It's just with new Hook, I feel he has so much ability to get Pan out quickly that it ends up causing that effect.
Yeah.
And unless you like Fate Storm Hook, so that there's tons of heroes you have to put the items or play the effects, you're forced to play Pan if you end up with.
I was forced to play Pan. Evil Queen was forced to play Pan. In the first match, too. In the first match against new Captain Hook, Peter Pan was at the top. I just discarded him. Otherwise, he would have just grabbed him in that game, too. But, yeah, I do have some serious gripes with new Hook's design, where... And I think Mooch was really smart to just play that game of fishing him out. He didn't care about the map.
The map's just such a gander and last resort.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, of course. If you can play Peter Pan with what was the name of the card? The effect?
Where the opponent.
Where the opponent? Where the opponent? Not only do you get Peter Pan, but you also get 2 power. So it's obviously, if you can get Peter Pan that way, it's obviously the best way to get him.
Yeah. So very strong approach by Mooch. Scary character. But Isma made it all the way to there, to losers round 6. So good for her. She can be a bit of a wild card.
Isma got a lot farther than what I was expecting.
And you faced her first turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you turned my Kronk into a hero twice.
Yeah. That was nice.
And then the 2 characters I lost to, new Captain Hook and Mim, would both be in the final. So there's not much I could do. Maybe I could have played that better, but not sure. And then losers round 7. Now this is when we get into the final 4. Was an introduction to Evil rematch. We had a couple rematches in this tournament, which is interesting. Where new Captain Hook again eliminated new Mal. So some really intense games between those 2 characters.
I'd agree.
I don't know if they top decked Peter Pan in those matchups. I know both were left feeling very exhausted by the end of it. But yeah, just shows the power of these introduction to evil characters. Okay, and then so Slay piloted New Mal, and he did a fantastic job getting 4th place with her. And then we had Evil Captain Hook, new Captain Hook.
Evil Captain Hook.
New Captain Hook, Codfish, face Evil Queen in the match for 3rd place. And new Captain Hook surprisingly won that one. Actually, I was surprised.
No, it's funny because the same Captain Hook faced Evil Queen earlier and lost to her. So, and to be fair, at least historically, we had quite a few Wicked League matches of this. Not a lot, but enough that we have on average a 52% win rate for Captain Hook new, and Evil Queen at 48%.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
So
Mhm.
and I feel like that's somewhat accurate because we literally saw them face each other twice, and the two times they faced each other, it's almost dead even. One time, the one the other time.
Yeah, and 1-1-2-0, the other one 1-2-0. That's incredible. Yeah. But Mooch did fade a lot to drag out those games.
Indeed.
Yeah. And then of course we made it to our final, where we had the marvelous Madam Mim against the new Captain Hook in a fierce final. So what did you think of that final, LordInfinity?
I thought it was fun. I knew it'd be somewhat a battle of knowing when to fate and when not.
Yeah.
Especially since I knew one of my goals in terms of fading is I had to make sure his deck was down to just his final 2 fates. Because if that's the case, and as long as I keep it that way, whenever he beats a taunt character, as long as I only ensure that there's that character and the taunt itself, unless he somehow manages to pull off 3 vanquish actions in 1 turn, I could always fate, and more than likely I'd get a new taunt or a new hero to put on the board.
My goodness.
That's what I was seeing from that game.
And to be fair, the first game, I'm pretty sure I got to that point, and once I got to that point, I had to change my plan, and I had to then also realize, okay, now I just got pure focus on digging, because fates do nothing for me. In fact, it was the second game I realized. So the first game I realized, I didn't ever realize this before, that the items on the top of the board could also be destroyed by the item destroyer. I didn't the first game, but the second game I was like, okay, I really want to move one of the pixie dust, and so I intentionally moved the oh no, it was a taunt I wanted to intentionally move, and that cost me the I feel like that's one of the mistakes that cost me the second game. But
Yeah.
I thought it'd be more effective, but it ended up being a bad time.
That was
So,
one of the one of the most incredible things I've seen in the final. It's amazing that Mim that she can even think like that, and then she takes away a taunt.
You know what's interesting? Like I know Madam Mim is like one of the few villains that can guarantee a fate any turn.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking like King Candy and how he can guarantee a fate for like 3 turns in a row unless Felix comes out. And I'm thinking,
crazy.
but then how that also sets you back. So it's like, anyway, it's different things. And then the second game went about as expected. That one I didn't make that same mistake.
Let's see. In the final game, how was it?
As far if I remember correctly, it was, to me it felt like a copy of the first. Just we were more played and tested by then, and so it went quicker.
I was curious if one of the strategies was just to make the time run out, to make the person lose with time.
In fact, it really can't. To be fair, I feel like I was keeping. One of the things I actually can track with the new farm I made is I kept track of how long each game is. So I was comparing just generally how long it takes a character to win compared to another character. Mim has one of the longest times for per game in the current of compared to any of the other villains. Ursula is the only one who has longer games than typical. And to be fair, it's a narrow average right now, so I wouldn't count it for too much. But Min tends to have long games just because of how much she has to rely on fading to win usually.
Interesting.
And so against Hook, though, where we were both fading, and there was literally a point where, because I feel like with Mim, it's easy once you don't have to worry about how you're fading to just start focusing on just digging for your cards and playing them as soon as you can. It's a big trick of getting, for Mim, I feel the trick is first making sure you keep your hand as empty of important stuff as possible, But also making sure you keep the fate pressure on. Once you get, I feel like a big trick is one of my goals is always to get a pile of money. If I get a pile of money, it's easier for the end game.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I have to basically predict that I'm going to lose 3 of my transformations at least in my first deck run through. So I know for a fact I have to prepare for that loss and more or less have to focus on gaining money and all that. And that's one of the reasons not being able to play a card on that third location is actually kind of helpful, because it starts building my money stockpile, which is more important than my usually more important than having the correct card to play. If I had just one card to play, usually getting money was better than straight up playing it.
Yeah,
So.
you were swimming in it by the end.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is necessary when you draw 3. I'll make the rules.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you guys' last thoughts on the final 4 and how this tournament went?
I knew
Honestly,
Madam was gonna be there.
Well, you know,
And like I expected it to be what it was, so
it was kind of expected. Like, I guess you could say, like, the 2 strongest characters you might predict made it to the end. But I did have predictions for everyone, and only Mooch predicted that Madam Mim would win against New Captain Hook in the final. Everyone else had different predictions.
Yeah, I failed to
Loki
predict
predicted it would be
Captain
Horn
Hook.
King. Loki predicted Horn King versus Hades in the final. Somebody else predicted Radigan versus Syndrome. And somehow I ended up in 14th place for my own tournament predictions. Yeah. But yeah, what I do want to get to a stage where this tournament is more wild, and you could have like a little bit of like anything could happen, which can kind of happen when there's different pilots. But yeah, the 2 strongest characters, I guess you could say that they're both phenomenal. They both made it to the end under good pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And speaking of that last game, that really showcased how differently Madam Mim and New Captain Hook are in terms of why they're considered like the best characters in the game. While both can fade, Madam Mim is a little bit slower, I would say. But the more important thing is that Captain Hook really doesn't care too much about you fading him, because he doesn't expect you to be able to fade so much. In the Wicked League, I played with Lotso against the New Captain Hook, and
that was
something very similar happened, where both himself and I were fading every turn, and New Captain Hook really couldn't make much progress because since so many heroes were already out, then I could immediately attach one of the fade items to the heroes. So that's what happened in this last tournament, where Madam Mim just faded him so much that New Captain Hook really had no chance of winning. Like at that point, it was just Madam Mim could play her game, and she would eventually win. I actually asked Mooch when the match was over what his plan was, because he already had one of the cannons in his hand, and I asked him what was his plan, because at the moment I didn't really like analyze it completely, but afterwards I realized that there really was no way for New Captain Hook to win, because it wasn't, at that point, it was more really about Madam Mim being able to fade every turn, but more like Madam Mim was able to fade any turn. She didn't really have to fade anymore. She just had to fade, be able to fade whenever and the new Captain Hook defeated a hero. So I really noticed that Captain Hook could defeat one hero, the Manamin fading him, and pretty much play the taunt again, or maybe use the item discarder. And at that point, Captain Hook needed like 3 more turns, or maybe 4. And even if you got lucky and didn't get the taunt played immediately after, Manamin can fade in the next turn anyway. So there really was no way for the new Captain Hook to win at that point. Which was what surprised me the most when I arrived, I believe, at one of the Manamin games at the very end. And I was very surprised because it had lasted so long. Because I realized that Manamin really just needed her I'll make the rules, and eventually the game should be over.
Yeah.
Especially in that tier game, I remember that I immediately thought Manamin just needed her last transformation, or I'll make the rules, and that's it. But New Captain Hook got very lucky because your LordInfinity didn't get the last cards that you needed. So he could still just try fading and fading and fading to eventually get Merlin played again and make you discard cards and stuff like that. But yeah, I really think that at that point in Hook's game, there was no way for him to win as long as Manamin was able to fade him. Which is... So it is really interesting to see them face against each other and notice how much Manamin seems like so much better than New Captain Hook. But when you play against other characters, you realize that Manamin and the New Captain Hook aren't like drastically better than the other against the other characters. But it's more that in this matchup, Manamin really had the upper hand as long as she went with the fading every turn strategy.
I do feel part of it is what territory New Hook calls his fall territory, if you will. Because if you, for example, if you feel like, because like I had to change my strategy a few times. Like with Evil Queen, I had to fully commit to just speeding forward and only fading when convenient, more or less. With any other character, I'm usually just full steam fading and prioritizing fading. But with Evil Queen, that just doesn't work. But what I'm kind of thinking here is with New Hook, what happens when, for example, you make your second territory the fall hero territory, and at that point it opens up your second discard action. You ideally can keep your 3 power spot more open, and so maybe you can just play faster and outplay. Because, for example, if my goal is to get out all your fate cards, so that's about 13 fates I have to do in order to get them out. One of your goals could be simply to try and win before 13 fates, and just keep your 1 fate spot as clear as possible.
Of course.
The fourth one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is an interesting analysis. And maybe Mooch did have a plan of like, maybe what he saw as his best bet was just getting lucky with an early Peter Pan, because not only was Mim fading, but Hook was fading himself the whole time.
Fun fact, me and Mooch before everything, we had practiced a few times, and I was like practicing with him as Evil Queen.
Yeah.
And my first fate as Evil Queen against him, I pulled out Pan.
Oh my god.
So we were very much aware of the idea that could be a possibility whenever someone fates.
I played against Mim in the league as new Captain Hook, and I beat that Madam Mim, but I think it's because I got a very lucky Peter Pan in the beginning. And then I'm like, oh, Mim can be beaten, but then I realized, well, it's very, very unlikely to get so lucky.
It's fair. It's definitely a different scenario.
Yeah, but the all the final four deserve shoutouts. You, LordInfinity, as a champion. Mooch for new hook. Weight of Glory for Evil Queen. Didn't give him enough praise. He did phenomenally well to get that far. And then, of course, Slay with new Mal. So that was our final four this year. It'll be intriguing to see who gets there next year.
Indeed.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's see how you decide to organize it, because you said you wanted to maybe add some customs.
Yeah. I think I will. I definitely will add the new Disney ones, but ideally I could get up to 32 or something. And then I just want to give some customs that are well made, because I think it's kind of fun just including them. Like, the owners really love the idea of having them in this tournament. And there's just some characters like Frollo who I never see coming out. And I feel like he's really missed in this representation of all the Disney villains.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
I would say personally pick from the list of ones that have been approved for tabletop so far. The ones that have made it onto the at least the main one that we run with that board, and it's click customs and it shows so many. I'm pretty sure those went through like an extreme approval process, so
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's good.
Right.
Okay, everyone. Any concluding thoughts?
Nope.
Before we wrap up? All right.
Yeah, I think I said everything I wanted to say.
Okay, great. Okay.
Well, apart from that, I guess thank you, Waco, for organizing the tournament. It was very fun.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Waco.
I didn't know it was going to take so long to get done. But yeah, it was really fun. And keep an eye out for our future Plotcast. Maybe we can discuss some other fun things apart from this tourney. There's some other topics that we brought up in the past, but we haven't touched on yet, like Star Wars villainous, Marvel villainous. Mm-hmm. Marvel deserves a lot of love. Yeah, Marvel,
and of course, Plotcast analyzing the new villains.
Yeah. Hopefully we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out, and catch you later.
See ya.
See ya, Waco.